In the Red Sea, a radar screen inside the Combat Direction Center of the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower flickers with a hostile contact. It is not a drill. It is an anti-ship ballistic missile launched by Houthi rebels in Yemen, traveling at Mach 5, targeting the nuclear-powered carrier. The time to impact is measured in seconds. Inside the Blue Room, a 20-year-old operations specialist shouts the code word vampire, vampire, vampire. In that instant, the ship's automated defenses take over. The rolling airframe missile launchers spin and fire. The phalanx close-in weapon system tracks the target with its tungsten barrels. The entire hull shudders as the interceptors launch. For the 5,000 sailors on board, this is not a movie. This is Tuesday. And as soon as the threat is neutralized, the adrenaline crash hits and they have to go back to doing laundry, serving food, and fixing toilets. This is the reality of the combat cruise. While the world sees the projection of American power, they do not see the internal attrition of the crew. They do not see the phantom vibrations of phones that aren't there, the River City blackouts that cut off all contact with home for weeks, or the bulkhead stare of a sailor who has reached their breaking point. In this deep dive documentary, we are going to expose the physiological and psychological reality of a 9-month combat deployment. We will bypass the recruitment slogans to show you the industrial underbelly of the USS Eisenhower. You will see the Blue Room, where sailors fight digital wars for 12 hours a day. We will take you into the 140-degree heat of the nuclear engineering spaces, where sailors sweat through their uniforms in minutes. We will analyze the River City condition, where the internet is severed to hide the ship's location, leaving the crew in a total information void. We will examine the economy of scarcity, where energy drinks become currency and fresh vegetables are a distant memory. And we will reveal the brutal phenomenon of reintegration trauma, where coming home proves to be harder than being at war. This is an autopsy of human endurance in a steel box. To understand the stress, you must first understand the environment. An aircraft carrier is an industrial factory that operates 24 hours a day. It is a sensory assault. If a sailor sleeps on the 3-level directly beneath the flight deck, their rest is dictated by the flight schedule. Every 45 seconds, an F-18 Super Hornet catches the arresting gear wire. The hydraulic engine that absorbs the aircraft's energy is located just above the berthing compartment. The sound is a violent metallic crash followed by the scream of the cable retracting. It sounds like a car accident happening on the roof of your bedroom. This noise vibrates through the steel rack, through the thin mattress, and into the sailor's skull. Sleep is not restorative, it is merely a pause in consciousness. The berthing compartments themselves are exercises in extreme density. On the Eisenhower, a Nimitz-class ship commissioned in 1977, the living quarters are tight. Roughly 180 sailors share a single room. The coffin lockers are stacked 3 high. The clearance between the mattress and the metal above is roughly 20 inches. You cannot sit up, you must slide in horizontally. The air is recycled, chilled to uncomfortable temperatures to protect the electronics, and scented with amine, a chemical compound used in the CO2 scrubbers that smells faintly of dirty socks and ammonia. This smell permeates everything. It settles into the fibers of civilian clothes locked in stowage. When a sailor opens a vacuum-sealed bag of clothes from home, the scent of fresh laundry can trigger an emotional breakdown because it smells like a world they have lost. The central nervous system of the ship is the Combat Direction Center, or CDC. This is a windowless, secure facility deep within the armored citadel of the hull. The lighting is kept dim and blue to reduce eye strain from the radar consoles. The sailors here, the operations specialists and fire controlmen, live in a state of high-stakes video game warfare. During the 2024 deployment, the threat environment was constant. The Houthi rebels utilized drones, cruise missiles, and ballistic missiles. The sailors in the CDC had to identify these threats, classify them, and authorize weapons release in seconds. The psychological burden of this room is immense. A 19-year-old sailor is responsible for tracking a missile that could kill 5,000 of their friends. They watch the track, they verify the kill, and then the shift ends. They unplug their headset, walk out of the secure area, and enter the mess deck to eat a tray of ravioli. There is no decompression time. The transition from active combat to eating lunch happens in under 2 minutes. This rapid switching between lethal focus and mundane boredom creates a sense of dissociation. The brain struggles to categorize the danger because the environment, the cafeteria, the gym, the bunk looks normal, even though the ship is under attack. Information control is a weapon used against the crew. This is known as River City. Operations Security, or OPSEC, dictates that the ship's electronic emissions must be controlled to prevent the enemy from targeting the vessel or learning of an upcoming strike. When the captain orders set River City, the ship goes digital dark. The satellite internet connections used for crew morale are severed. The payphones are disabled. Email servers are locked down. For the modern sailor whose life is integrated with their smartphone, this is a form of psychological amputation. During the Red Sea crisis, River City conditions were frequent and prolonged. A sailor might go 3 weeks without knowing if their family is safe, if their bills are paid, or if the war has expanded. Rumors fill the vacuum. This is called scuttlebutt. A whisper from a radio man that we are extending for another month travels to the reactor department, then to the flight deck, mutating along the way into we are extending for 6 months. Paranoia becomes the baseline emotional state. When the internet is restored, the bandwidth is split among 5,000 users. It operates at dial-up speeds. Sending a text message takes 10 minutes. Loading a photo of a newborn child takes an hour. The sailors huddle in the Wi-Fi spots in the passageways, staring at loading bars, desperate for a pixelated connection to humanity. The physical toll is compounded by the black hole of the engineering department. Deep below the waterline live the snipes and nukes, the conventional mechanics and the nuclear engineers. Their world is heat. The main machinery spaces contain the steam turbines, the reduction gears, and the reactor vessels. The ambient temperature in these spaces regularly exceeds 130 degrees Fahrenheit. It is a humid, wet heat. Sailors stand watch for hours, sweat soaking through their coveralls in minutes. They drink gallons of water but rarely urinate because the body expels all moisture through the skin. Heat rashes are common, covering the torso and back. These sailors rarely see the sun. A nuke might go 3 weeks without seeing natural daylight. Their skin turns pasty. Their circadian rhythms are destroyed by the lack of solar cues. They operate on a rotating watch cycle, 5 hours on, 10 hours off, or sometimes port and starboard 6 on, 6 off. Their bodies lose the ability to distinguish day from night. They eat breakfast at 1900 hours and dinner at 700 hours. They exist in a perpetual twilight of artificial fluorescence and steam. The economy of the ship adapts to the scarcity. Cash has no value on the ocean. The currency of the aircraft carrier is nicotine, caffeine, and digital data. The ship's store is a small convenience store deep in the hull. It stocks basics, soap, snacks, energy drinks, and tobacco, but supply chains to the Red Sea were strained. When the store runs out of Zyn nicotine pouches or the preferred White Monster energy drinks, the black market explodes. A can of energy drink that sells for $3 in the store can trade for $20 in the berthing a week later. Bartering becomes the primary mode of commerce. A sailor might trade a haircut, performed illicitly in a fan room with clippers, for a hard drive filled with movies. The internet is too slow to stream Netflix or YouTube. Digital content is hoarded on terabyte hard drives. A drive containing the latest season of a popular TV show makes a sailor powerful. They trade access to the drive for shift coverage. I will stand your 200 to 700 watch if you give me the drive with the new movies. This underground economy relies on reputation and honor. If you burn a shipmate on a trade, you are ostracized, and in a steel box with no exit, social isolation is a heavy penalty. The food supply is a logistical metric of morale. The menu cycle is 21 days, but the quality degrades over time. When a supply ship pulls alongside for an underway replenishment, UNREP, fresh fruit and vegetables are brought on board. For the first week, there is salad. There are bananas. By week 2, the lettuce is brown and wilting. By week 3, the vegetables are exclusively canned corn or frozen spinach. The milk is UHT ultra-high temperature, a shelf-stable liquid that does not require refrigeration until opened. It has a cooked, slightly sweet taste that repulses new sailors but becomes accepted over time. The most dreaded meal is surf and turf. In the civilian world, steak and lobster is a luxury. On a deployed aircraft carrier, it is a bad omen. The Navy typically serves steak and lobster only on birthdays, holidays, or when bad news is coming. If it is a random Tuesday in November and the galley is serving lobster tails, the crew knows instantly. The deployment has been extended. The lobster is rubbery, the steak is tough, but the message is clear. You are not going home. The most popular meal is Midrat's midnight rations. Served from 2300 to 100, it is pure comfort food. Corn dogs, breakfast burritos, ravioli, leftovers from dinner fried into new shapes. It is unhealthy, greasy fuel for the night watch, but it provides a momentary dopamine hit in a grind of misery. The crew drinks bug juice, a neon-colored fruit punch from dispensers. It is highly acidic. Sailors use it to clean the tarnish off their brass belt buckles, but it covers the taste of the desalinated water, which often has a chemical aftertaste of bromine. By month 5, the psychological condition known as the bulkhead stare becomes prevalent. It is a form of dissociation. You walk into the mess deck and see a sailor sitting alone, a tray of food untouched in front of them, staring blankly at a steel wall. They are not looking at the wall, they are looking through it. They have checked out. The monotony of the routine watch, eat, sleep erodes the personality. The brain stops forming new memories because every day is identical to the last. Sailors stop making plans for the future. Concepts like buying a car or going on a date feel like abstract fantasies from a past life. The only reality is the ship. The chaplain becomes the busiest officer on board. Suicide prevention protocols are activated quietly. Sailors are assigned to watch shipmates who are showing signs of collapse, removing their belts and shoelaces, sleeping in shifts to ensure they do not harm themselves. It is a grim brotherhood. You may hate the Navy, and you may hate the captain, but you protect the sailor in the rack next to you because they are the only one who understands the specific texture of this suffering. The physical effects of the ocean environment on the human body are profound. Land sickness is a vestibular disorder. After months of constantly adjusting to the roll and pitch of the ship, the sailor's inner ear is rewired. When they stand on solid ground, the world spins. They feel nauseous because the ground is not moving, but the psychological rewiring is deeper. This is the phantom vibration. Sailors carry heavy-duty radios or pagers. They vibrate to signal a fire, a drill, or a watch change. After months of hypervigilance, the nerves in the thigh become sensitized. Sailors report feeling their phone or pager vibrate even when they are naked in the shower. They reach for a device that isn't there. It is a phantom limb sensation for a piece of technology, a sign that the brain is trapped in a permanent state of high alert. The climax of the deployment is not the combat. It is the return. This is reintegration trauma. When the USS Eisenhower finally returned to Norfolk in July 2024, the sailors walked off the ship into a world that felt alien. The sensory overload is immediate. The colors are too bright. The grass is aggressively green. The silence of a suburban bedroom is terrifying. Sailors report sleeping on the floor of their own homes because the mattress is too soft and the room is too quiet. They need white noise machines to simulate the hum of the ventilation fans. The grocery store is a source of paralysis. A sailor who has eaten what they were given for 9 months stands in the cereal aisle staring at 50 different options, unable to make a choice. The decision fatigue triggers a panic response. I just want cereal, they think, but their brain locks up. There is also the emotional displacement. Life at home continued without them. The spouse learned to fix the plumbing. The children grew taller and formed new routines. The sailor returns expecting to slot back into their old life, only to find that the family has evolved into a new shape that doesn't quite fit them anymore. They feel like a ghost in their own living room. They are physically present, but their mind is still in the blue room, tracking missiles in the Red Sea. The Navy does not deploy ships, it deploys floating cities of trauma and resilience. The sailors of the Eisenhower did not just survive enemy fire, they survived the void. They survived the 140-degree heat of the reactor spaces. They survived the information blackouts of River City. They survived the degradation of the food supply and the erosion of their own identities. They are the steel backbone of American power, but that steel is forged in a fire that most civilians will never feel. It is a sacrifice measured not just in missed birthdays or holidays, but in the permanent alteration of the human psyche. If this investigation into the reality of a 9-month combat deployment has changed your perspective on the cost of naval power, I need you to act now. First, subscribe to the Tactical Chow channel. We do not recycle press releases, we analyze the logistical and human reality of warfare. Second, click the like button. This helps us bypass the algorithm to bring these stories to a wider audience. Third, leave a comment below. I want to know, could you handle 9 months without sunlight, internet, or a way out knowing you were a target, or would you crack? Be honest. And finally, if you think life on a carrier is difficult, wait until you see the reality of the nuclear submarine service. No windows, no gym, no surface air for 90 days. Click the video on your screen right now to see how 130 men live in a steel tube at the bottom of the ocean. It makes the carrier look like a cruise ship. Go click it and I'll see you there.